Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another quick pick prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the boxing match between Anderson Silva versus Tito Ortiz. So this is a pretty interesting matchup right here. It is definitely not no UFC matchup or anything like that. So this is a boxing matchup between two former UFC champions. At one point, well, Anderson Silva still has the most defenses in his division by far. Tito Ortiz at one point had the most defenses. But yeah. I see this fight right here is in the boxing match. I have Anderson Silva winning this one, as most people will. And as far as Tito Ortiz, I think his size definitely can play a factor, but technique is everything for real. Especially unless a guy like 300 pounds bigger than you, or 200 pounds, or 100 pounds, something like that. But 20, 30 pounds, 40 pounds. Well, I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically, I don't think the size is that big enough a factor that's going to allow Tito Ortiz to win. I think power and size is going to be that much of an advantage for allow Tito Ortiz to win. I feel like it's going to kind of look like how a lot of these fights look. Maybe like a Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, but obviously not that big a gap, and obviously not how that was. But I think it's a case where Tito's going to try to crowd Anderson Silva's space, coming with these big shovel of punches. But I think a lot of stuff that he had success with in MMA is not going to carry over as well to boxing. Because a lot of his striking success came behind the fact that a lot of his opponents were already so worried about what his real threat is. I'm not saying he's a one-dimensional fighter. He's not at all. He's always been a pretty well-rounded fighter. Well, at first he was kind of raw, but by the time his prime, the Tito that everybody know and still kind of know, he's never been a one-dimensional fighter at that extent. Like when he had actually time to develop, become a champion, defend his belt a couple times, he already had been a well-rounded fighter. So I'm talking about early on in his career, he might not have been a well-rounded fighter, but yeah, a lot of talking, but. What I'm saying as far as where I'm going with this is I feel like a lot of Tito's success in striking and what made his striking even more effective is the fact that people were so worried about his wrestling, his top control, his ground and pound, the size, being underneath like that 5 gorillas or whatever Rashad Evans said how it felt like being underneath Tito. Nobody wanted to be underneath Tito. So a lot of times, the hands would drop a little bit. He would come in low, come in with these overhands, come in tight defense and stuff. Be the crowd that space, land these big shovel heavy punches, maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit telegraphed, but there's so much fear and respect put into his wrestling and defending his wrestling that naturally when you see him coming in, your hands drop a little bit and he's able to come with these punches over top. You might say, oh, Anderson Silva's hands are already going to be a little bit low because that's how you fight. But even then, Anderson Silva's much faster, much better reflex, and I think always been a much better boxer, and to this point, still a much better boxer. So I feel like Tito's going to try to crowd space a lot. I feel like Anderson Silva will be able to land clean jabs, clean counters in there, and then be able to tie him up when he comes in, crowd in the space. Like this not MMA, there's no clinch. You can't body lock and drag nobody to the ground or land knees or plums right there. And even then, Anderson Silva had much better Muay Thai clinch, much better in the Muay Thai, but definitely wouldn't want Tito getting no body lock and trying to drag him to the ground. Would not want that. But this is boxing, and I feel like Anderson Silva's gonna be the much cleaner, much more technical fighter. Be able to land the jab, control the distance, play bull and matador, be able to pepper him up, tie him up on the inside, and just keep landing clean counters, probably showboat a little bit, make him load up, miss wide, and counter clean, and just put on a nice technical performance over Tito. I think Tito might early on, maybe to some people that don't know what they're watching, this is the same way with Logan Paul versus Mayweather, like people that know what they're watching, like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that, but nothing clean, nothing really landing too much for Tito. But I do think Tito gives a good performance against Anderson Silva. I think Anderson Silva beats him pretty clean. I don't think he stops him, especially being an 8 round, especially being the weight difference. I think cutting down to 195 might be a little bit of issue for Tito. Might be an issue, might make his chin a little bit chinny, but that head is still very strong. It's not about the chin with Tito. Tito's head made out of brick, so I don't really see him getting stopped in this one, unless maybe he crack his skull again. But I think it'd be a case of where it is like Anderson Silva puts on a clean, almost shutout performance against Tito Ortiz. Like I said, playing Bullet Matador, sticking, moving, evading, tying him up, and being able to fight a clean performance. And then after a while, like at those first couple rounds when Tito's kind of rushing a little bit to the middle, kind of have him hesitant off those counters, off the jab, kind of sitting at a bay, and then just peppering away from the outside, and every now and then Tito try to crowd that space, but less and less. Like early on, be very aggressive, but after a while, walking to the counters, getting tied up, getting peppered up, just going to be like I said, sit on the outside a little bit and get outpointed to a decision. I don't think Anderson Silva's gonna be necessarily so aggressive to stop Tito either. I think it's gonna be a case of like, mutual respect, be out there both just trying to, enjoying the sport of combat, out there testing himself in another element like mixed martial arts, boxing and stuff. So it's not gonna be a case where it's like any bad blood or any case where Anderson Silva necessarily has to go out there and look for the finish. It's not gonna be a case where Tito's gonna be out there so aggressive that he's gonna get finished, or Tito's gonna be out there just so like not belonging so much that it's gonna be a case that Anderson Silva could just walk right through him and just pick him apart without much ease and stop him and like just put so much load up behind the shot. So it's more like Anderson Silva, even in his best, he's not a guy that necessarily went out there and just ran through guys. He's a guy that just lands such clean, sharp shots that his opponents got stopped. Or he just like this for clean technical, he let the finish come to him. Like that's why sometimes it was issues when people he's waiting on the counter, or why he didn't finish guy, why he didn't finish guys. He never really been that guy that just go out there and look to run right through his opponents. That's not his style. So I don't think it's like with that size advantage, that large head of Tito's. This has been an 8-round boxing match and not an MMA match, and a lot of different other factors. He's not going to be necessarily hunting the finish as much, and Tito's not going to be there to be finished as much in this fight. So I see Anderson Silva winning a decision over Tito in an 8-round fight. So in this fight, I got Anderson Silva via decision.